Hi all, I'm Cullen Haynes and welcome to Ledger Legends Live with Cullen Haynes. Got a special treat for you today. My next guest has had over 20 years experience in different roles and is now leading fractional CFO, CA at AGI Advisory. Could you please make very welcome the one, the only, Abbas Alibhai. How are you, Abbas? How are you, sir?
Hey, Cullen. Good. Thanks. And yourself?
All the better for seeing you, my friend. And I'm glad we're talking after billable time to have a bit of a deep dive. I'm sure everyone's appreciating it.
Likewise, mate. Thanks for having me.
Hey, my pleasure, my friend. My pleasure. And I would remind everyone, thank you so much for tuning in. This is live. This is 5:13, Wednesday, the 2nd of October. Any questions, queries, or concerns, we'll shout them all out. We're broadcasting live, LinkedIn, YouTube, Facebook, Twitch, and X. And thank you so much for those re-listening and re-watching and subscribe to our podcast. Thank you so much. But what's happening in your world, mon ami? Would love to know.
Yeah, no, look, pretty good. We're a young business, but we're focused on adding value to businesses through our work as fractional CFOs, virtual CFOs, it's also called, but also really digging under the numbers and giving value to the business. You know, what are the opportunities that we can unlock, challenges, and how do we solve them? But doing all that with really strong core values, which I think are really important. Putting the business owner at ease. Numbers can be scary, so we make them more friendly and add value at the same time.
I love that. I love that. I'd love to know, what does a fractional CFO do in a nutshell? Because I only learned about it about a year or two ago, and I was like, oh, okay. And then I heard about fractional marketing and all these other things. So what does a fractional CFO do for those tuning in right now?
Yeah, good question. So look, I think the premise is you have businesses at different life cycles, and at that growth phase, a full-time CFO may not be effective or efficient for the business. It might be too costly, etc. This fractional model gives that flexibility to the owner. It's not as expensive, and you can tune in and out as you need. So you need a lot more services in the beginning. You do that, and as you evolve, you don't need as much. You can phase out as well. But there's also a project element as well. You might have a finance team in place, but you want a specific area looked at. What's my cash flow doing? How do I fix it? How do I improve it? So we can do that bespoke piece of work as well.
Oh, it's very good. It seems like you're jack of all trades, but also master of all, looking after the business and deeping dive on what the business's challenges are, which, anything related to finance can always be a myriad of things. So it's a lot of value that you bring. But like having a fun element to it, we often ask our guests on the show, how would you describe what you do in your life using just film titles of us?
Yeah, I had to think about that one actually. And I think one thing that comes to mind is the film, The Pursuit of Happiness.
Love that one.
It's same. And I think the whole premise for Chris was the happiness of his son, and he did everything he could to make it happen. And I think it's very similar, right? It's about leaving a legacy, and having that ethos, brings a certain joy as well to life. So I think, that would be for me.
No, I love that. Very, very apt. The Pursuit of Happiness. Will Smith and his son Jaden Smith, if I'm not mistaken, in that movie as well. So be sure to watch it. Yeah, it's a lot of lessons about grit, perseverance, and the reason we do anything in life is our family, right? So it's you've got a powerful enough why you can overcome anyhow. Getting into our Nietzsche, a little bit philosophical of us. So if you'll humor me. But I'd love to know what habits or mindset separate the top 1% in your industry from others, because you hear online, everyone claims to be the best. They not self-nominate themselves. It's awards season. But really, what makes the top 1% in your field the top 1%? What are the habits? What do they do?
Yeah, look, I think, the words that I'd use are ownership, seeking growth, and positive challenge. And why I say those, you've got to challenge the status quo to get growth. You've got to challenge to make things better. Otherwise, we wouldn't have had all this progression in these last few years. And you've really got to own it. So when it's wrong and when you've made a mistake, own it. When you've done better, own it as well.
Yeah, good point.
I think it's encompassed within growth, because if you want growth, you do those things, in my view. Yeah, so I think that really does separate those top 1%.
Very well said. Very well said. Was I guess switching gears a little bit for yourself, was there a pivotal moment in your career that shifted you towards, hey, I want to be this advisor and add value to others in this way?
Yeah, look, I think the ethos has always been to help people and add value. You've gained all this experience, and I'm grateful for my experience, but I always felt that I could do more. So, stepping in, and if I could help these business owners out there that have challenges that they're trying to solve, or problems, or, if I can add value for them. Often it's not just about money, right? It's about freedom. It's about reducing those stresses in their lives. So I've always wanted to do it, and I think it just came to that point where I thought it's now or never. I really want to, make this difference, and also enjoy the autonomy as well, and the freedom of having the business, but being able to see it through, and where you have a customer that says, it all makes sense. Thanks for really helping me. I can actually breathe better now, or I've made more money, or I just feel better about the business. I think those are really rewarding points.
No, it's a good point. And we've already got people tuning in. So Paul Milburn says, glad this has come up. Abbas, good to see you both. Louise Mathias, who's a leading legal professional and barrister, says it starts with self-leadership, and it's showing up as the best version of you. So some great insights that you're dropping down there. Nuggets are being dropped here, Abbas. So we'll keep pushing forward so people get maximum value. I would encourage, put your questions. Let's engage, guys. Let's keep connected. YouTube, LinkedIn, Facebook. I'm going to keep an eye on everything, and we'll see if we can ask Abbas in real time. So what's one skill that you developed outside of your profession, Abbas, that has unexpectedly contributed to where you are today?
I don't know if it's a skill, but I think connecting with people and empathy. And I think it comes through in any profession. You could be the best accountant, lawyer, mortgage broker, but you really need to put yourself in others' shoes and really understand what's value to them, what's their problem. As professionals, we can easily rattle off all these acronyms and things to make us sound smart, but I think it's really understanding what it is about for that person. And sometimes that could mean walking away from a piece of work, because you go, what, there's someone who's better equipped to do that for you.
That's a good point.
Yeah. So I think those are really, really important. And I think it comes from experience. I grew up in Africa, so I've had that quite a varied experience and perspective. Lived in the UK and Australia as well. So I'm really grateful for that experience as well.
No, I know what you're saying, and I'm endeared by what you're saying in terms of, passing the torch on if you think someone else can add that value. I was talking to a leading HR professional at one of the top 50 law firms, and I won't mention names, but they're a cracking firm. And she says she takes a lot of people from other firms that are very siloed, and it's very protective. What's mine is mine. Even if they don't even do that practice of law, they won't give it to someone who's better equipped.
Yes.
But she said at this firm, it is much more, and it's similar to my role at Macquarie. If you're not best to help that client, you pass it on, because it'll come back to you, and the client's going to be looked after. This is an abundant universe, people. Like the old guard of the previous generations is what's mine is mine. It's scarcity mindset. You should share that mind share your client to make sure they get the best experience, not just because you want to hog it, because you don't want anyone else to get the accolades, whatever it is. And I think that needs to be addressed more in this current environment, right?
I think so. And I think when we all win, it's much more fun. It's much more enjoyable. It's much more rewarding. So I think it's important.
No, good point. Good point. And how does Abbas Alibhai unwind at the end of a particularly tough day, my friend? What's your go-to regime?
Look, it's a good question. I think even without looking at it from that perspective, I think it's about having that balance and the perspective, so it doesn't get to that point. So I think at every point, it's about looking at that perspective of where you are and how lucky we are, and how much we have. I think that helps a lot. But on a personal note, I think the kids help a lot as well. The unconditional love from the children, and maybe their honesty as well, which can sometimes be confronting, but it's quite fun.
Yeah.
So I think really engaging with that family, decoupling from technology. I think that's really important, and being present, I think, with the family or in anything else that you do. I think that helps tremendously.
No, I'm picking up what you're putting down in that respect, because I was talking to someone the other day, and they said what they do in their house is when they get home, everyone gets home, you put your devices in a bowl, right? And you engage with everyone else. When you're at the table, you're talking about what's going on. You may be debating politics. You're engaged. You don't want to be all at the table doing these ones,
Exactly.
No one, these are soul suckers. And it definitely can spoil that end of day interactions with your family if everyone's on a screen.
Exactly right. Yeah.
So, just like those parties where you put your keys in the bowl, put your phones in the bowl and forget about it. Come on. I think that's a good idea. Are there any projects you're pursuing right now that you're particularly excited about, Mon Ami? And why are you excited about them?
Yeah, it's a good question. Look, I'm really enjoying what we do, and there are a couple of areas I'm working on. But the key thing for me is unlocking that value. So, a value in some examples have been where people didn't know where they were heading. So, what is my P&L telling me? What's my cash flow telling me? What's my balance sheet telling me? So, some of the value has been in just showing that and explaining that and saying, what does it look like in the next 10 years? What happens if I do X or Y? Can I invest in this project or not? So giving them that real clarity. In other examples, it's been where it's actually looking at the levers to pull to improve the financial performance. And so that's really understanding the drivers, which are different in all these different organizations, but the underpinnings are quite similar, right? So in terms of, you either increase sales, or you reduce costs, or you optimize, or use technology to leverage. So what I particularly like about that is it's not just theory, it's actually putting it on in reality, it's testing it. Because anyone can do a PowerPoint presentation, but it's about the next level, which is I've done the presentation, now we're going to test it in real life. And, we might not achieve 100% of it, but we've done 80 or 90%. And there's some real tangible value there for the business owner to unlock. So yeah, that's quite rewarding.
Good man. And in terms of, this is Ledger Legends, so this is an accounting podcast, leading legends like yourself in the profession. Where do you see accounting in the next 10 years, and see if the role of the CFO?
Yeah, look, it's a really interesting question. I think it's undoubtedly that technology is moving at a rapid pace, and I think as accountants and all other professionals, we've got to leverage that technology. I don't think it's us versus them sort of thing. I don't think it's a job replacement, because I think you need the technology, but you also need the human touch. You can't have one or the other. I think you need the two. So what I see happening is a lot of the compliance work will be more automated, but it still needs to be checked. But I think the value, if I think about what happens today, is a lot of the doing takes a lot of time, right? So people spend a lot of time preparing, be it a forecast or a budget or a model. A lot of that will be done synergistically, with technology. And the change, in my view, and I am biased a bit, is a greater focus on business advisory or advisory in general, because the doing's been done. It's freed up that time for people. And it's not just as advisors, it's in CFOs within companies, it's accountants in practice, it's business partners. So I really see that that need to embrace. And the pace at which it's moving at, you've got to embrace it, otherwise you get left behind almost. So I think if you look at things like Zero and Copilot and Chat GPT, and I think now there's Python, programming that's coming into Excel and other modules like that. So I think there's a real opportunity, I think. So rather than a threat, I see it as a really big opportunity for all of us.
I think so. It's not Skynet. It's not going to take over. It's going to enhance, right? That's at least that's the idea in my mind, which is good. Yeah. Obviously, we can be anonymous, but what's the most unusual client request in the last 20 years you've ever had that you'd be welcome to share?
Look, I think I've been relatively lucky. So, there's not been too much. I think, in my days as an auditor, you'd see things, but this was many years ago, but they were all resolved before, the end, if you like. So I don't think it's been too untoward, but I think the key thing for me, I suppose, is that value piece, about integrity, and having integrity in what we do, but also having an interaction that's got integrity as well. So, potentially not working with some clients that don't share those values, So I think that's a really important piece, with shared values as an employee, but also as a professional and a client, and vice versa. And people that you work with closely, referral partners, things like that. I think that integrity is really, really key.
It's a good point you make that point. We've had to do it with a select number of clients. We've had to do it recently with a select referral partner. And, it's just about your integrity. There's a way you want to be treated, and your clients want to be treated, and your staff want to be treated. And it is okay to put your foot in the ground in an assertive but kind way to say, I'm sorry, this behavior is unacceptable. You're more than welcome to look elsewhere. And I used to be in hotels. And if it ever got to that point, I was more than happy as the manager to come out and say, madam, it appears that we're unable to meet your expectations. Perhaps madam would like to look elsewhere. And that puts the ball in their court, because you know what? When you put a stand up for you, yourself, and your staff, that is integrity. But if you let people walk all over you who, like they say, turn the other cheek and all that stuff, I don't agree with that in a way, because it's teaching other people are watching that it's okay that you let that kind of thing happen. And you want to do business with people that agree. And I'm sure I'm going to get piled on by saying the client's always right and whatnot, but I don't think they're always right. And I don't think referral partners are always, I don't think human beings are always right. And that's my 2 cents worth.
Yeah, no, I agree. And I think one of the things you learn is you might take on that relationship, but it does have problems later on anyway, because of this clash. So sometimes it's more efficient, I think. But look, I think that's very seldom that you experience that, which is good.
Yeah. It's like a blue moon, right? Luckily, I always say, and I think I say this nearly every second podcast, and because it's one of my favorites. Wayne Dyer, the late great Wayne Dyer, said there's 6 negative people in the world, but they tend to move around a lot, right? So, and you just happen to deal with them every now and then.
That's right.
But good. I'd love to ask, who is a mentor that has shaped your life, and how have they shaped your career trajectory, and what was the best piece of advice they ever gave you, mon ami?
Yeah, again, these are fantastic questions.
Of course.
Look, I think, yeah, absolutely. Look, I think for a lot of my career, I've done well by doing the opposite of what I've been told.
That's good.
Or not following, in the footsteps of some. But I have been lucky to, be inspired by a few as well. I think, the real eye opener for me is where the mentor sees something in you that you don't see in yourself, and that's something really valuable. And I think the biggest learning I had was, we often wait for the right moment when we're early in our careers. When I've done this, I'll do this. When I've done this, I'll get to CFO. When I've had 20 years of experience, I'll do this. But they flipped it on its head to say, when the opportunity presents itself, just go for it. You'll then work it out anyway, So you might have trepidations of, will I be able to do it, in imposter syndrome? But you've got to be there to be able to experience it. And only then can you tell if you can do it. And if you can't, that's okay. You've given it a good go. And that's really helped, I think, because I think, the biggest barrier to progress is yourself, right? You're
correct. That's right.
Yeah. So I think I'm lucky to have learned that quite a few years ago, and that was a real eye opener. So I'm forever grateful for that.
That's wonderful. And I don't think you need to be religious for this, but you can ascribe it to any religion that you're with. That said, someone out there doesn't call the prepared; they prepare the called. Right. So you're not given anything that you can't handle. And when the student is ready, the teacher appears. And sometimes you just got to, the door won't open again. I'm reading a book at the moment to my son. He's only 20 months old, but it's by Kobe Yamada. It's called "What Do You Do with a Chance?" And it's a great, beautiful book. And it's this. It's like a paper airplane that's golden. That's the I guess the motif that they use for a chance, and it comes on by, and it's about this child who he's afraid to take that chance and he doesn't see it again, and then it comes back, and it's like it's a beautiful story, but it's like we got to teach our kids and those around us that take those chances because you never know if they're going to come again.
Absolutely, couldn't agree more.
Oh, good man, good man. In terms of what you'd like to see change in accounting, you can be as, I don't know, blunt or honest or veiled as you want. How would you like to answer that question there, Abbas?
Look, I think we covered it a couple of questions ago. So I think the technology piece is really important because
That's
it does,
important.
leverage a lot, and it allows you to add that value, right? As an advisor, as an employee, as a CFO. But I think the other really important piece, the thing that I'm really passionate about is customer service, right? And really giving that superior experience to the client.
Yes.
You can do that by embracing technology, but also by having that ethos, which sometimes it can be too much volume and you don't have enough time to service those clients and spend a bit of time with them. So I think it's finding that right balance.
I agree.
But I think, over the years, I'm sure we've all had those experiences where, I've emailed the accountant, I've called them 5 times, I'm still waiting for a reply. So I think that I would love to change that so that everyone has that really positive experience. And I think it also adds to their trepidation, right? They're already not comfortable with the numbers or they're worried about something and it's prolonged, so they don't have that answer, as quickly as they wanted. So I think, real strong focus on the customer.
Yeah, well said, well said. And I think Darren Chinniper said it, partner at Nexia in an earlier episode, I think episode 7, the one before, your good self. The accounting profession, chartered accountants and leading professionals need to come out from behind the desk and, engage with that customer service piece, right? And same in banking, in my profession, same in law. I think, service is senior to sales, and I don't care who you think you are. If you deal with people, you're in sales because this is what life is about. So we really need to get to that personal element. And hand on heart, I'm so glad I, finished. I did a degree in diagnostic radiography, worked for a year, hated it, went into hospitality. So I was working in hotels, right? So I learnt hospitality and dealing with high expectation people. They're not going to go anywhere. They're right in front of you. So I always find that if you're recruiting for your company, the best kind of people you can recruit are those that have worked in hospitality professions, because there's no hiding. That is a service industry. So, whenever I see someone coming in up and comer who's like done that, I go, you can just tell in the way they act that they've worked with people and that they worked in a service profession. I just wanted to add that element to it because I think it's important, because we strive to, send our kids to selective schools. They probably don't work when they're 14 and 9 months anymore. I don't know. They go straight from, they don't have a gap year. They go to uni and then they go to work, and they haven't had any of those, soft touch points that help define people, right?
Exactly right. Yeah, and I couldn't agree more. And even if you take that into the finance realm, we need to use those numbers to add value, to tell people what's happening in a non-financial way, right? So
yes,
you can only do that by interacting, connecting, and understanding what's important to them, what their challenges are. And you can use that in any environment, right? It could be an employee or a business environment. And to do that, you've got to build that relationship. So I think that's really important as well.
No, indeed, boy, what you're saying, as always there, Abbas. So we're coming to the end of the stream. We've got time for bonus questions after, which we'll bring to you. But lessons for young professionals, finance, legal, or otherwise watching, starting their career, probably a good segue from what we were talking about before. What would you say to them? They're about to enter a firm. Go. Abbas, drop some more pearls of wisdom on me.
So I think part of it is what we just discussed, right? Which is that really connecting with people and empathizing and understanding their situation. And I think the other part is perspective. So I remember from my time when I started, green, accountant, everything was black and white, right, wrong. but there's a lot more to it, right? It's quite grey. I should say
Yeah.
more colourful, like a rainbow. So really having that perspective, having the rounded experience. So it's not just about getting an A. I mean, that's really important, but that's only part of it. I think it's not just about passing, right? It's about engaging, building, getting that 360 experience and feedback. In my experience, a lot of this is all about relationships, right? So I think we've said it already, but you've really got to get out there, connect, meet people.
Good point.
And I think the other thing I'd say is as well, back yourselves as well.
No, I like that. Get out, circulate to percolate, as I always say, but also back yourself as well, which is another recurring theme, I think, what we were talking about. Take those chances. And, sometimes you'll learn. I think a great thing about rocketry, and change the subject again, but rockets are made with technology and the idea that eventually that technology will be available. When they were building the Apollo 11, the Apollo 11, it was when they started, they didn't have the technology, right? But they kept on building, and they knew eventually. I'm sure there's a certain law. If anyone knows it, put it in the comments what that law is, that it'll eventually be there. But I think you need to attack that with your own personal life and journey. That just start. Seth Godin, start things, and eventually you'll learn along the way. And everyone started as an apprentice who is a master, right? You all have to start somewhere.
That's right.
Now, getting a bit philosophical, bringing it back to Nietzsche, as we were saying before. How would you like to be remembered one day, Abbas?
Well, this is extremely deep. So I think the words I'd use would be, integrity, having good values, and believing in the greater good, right? So everyone winning. I think that's important. So you don't want to take something at someone else's expense. It's about everyone gaining from the experience, from the interaction, from the exchange. I really agree with you there, Abbas. And I think it's more often done in Australia. It's called that tall poppy syndrome. I always say to people, there's two ways to have the tallest building in Sydney. You can either focus on building your building up or tearing others down. And unfortunately, it's much easier to tear others down. But I think we should all be encouraging people to build their own building. I always say, build your cathedral. That's the whole point of life. You got to build something special. And I think we should encourage others doing it along the way, because this is an abundant universe. This is an abundant world. There is so much out there. There's many clients. There's a lot of ways to add value. So someone else's success does not take away from your success. Yeah. In fact, I think you can use it as an inspiration, right? So you can see where someone's done well and feel good about it, feel happy for them, and say, wow, okay, that's great, and feel happy about what you've done. We're all on a different journey. It's not a comparison. It's about what's good for you, and the possibilities are limitless.
You should look up to people. Before I left banking, I looked at the people in my industry, broking, and I saw who are the ones that are absolutely killing it, doing well. And I went, okay, these are the top. And I just invited them to have a coffee, and I'd love to just pick their brain and see what they did. And some of them, shout out Christian Stevens, had a coffee with me in the early days. And he said he used to follow me on when I was at Macquarie. And I said, what have you found, that has helped you along the way? What would you do differently? And he was kind enough to share those insights, right? And I think that kind of mindset is so great. And more professionals should actually give the time to speak to those entering their profession if they do, ring you up. And I've done that a few times. A few people have said, Cullen, I'm thinking about getting into broking. I'm about to leave the bank. Can you tell me your experience? And I'm hashtag, humbled that they do that, because, to even think that I'd be worthy to give that kind of advice is special, right? So, put it out there, because it'll come back.
Yeah, it's very humble of you. And Cullen, you're very generous as well. So it must be acknowledged as well. Yeah.
Let's see. I don't think my wife would agree when the two babies are screaming at night and we're losing our patience. But it's a blessing, and I'm glad I can add value in the marketplace in that way. As Jim Rohn says, there's multiple versions of you. You can add value in different places. The marketplace is just one of those. I really appreciate you coming on board today on our Ledger Legends episode 8, Abbas, sharing your experience, sharing your background, and sharing, all the things that make you you and how you add value in your unique role as fractional CFO, my man.
Likewise. Look, thanks again for your time, your generosity as always. And really appreciate it.
Now, my pleasure. Now, before we bring you back for some bonus questions, where can people find you? Where are you hanging out the most? How can they get in touch?
So look, we're on LinkedIn. We've got our website, www.agiadvisory.com.au. And
it's on the ticker, on the Fox News ticker down here, guys, if you haven't seen it.
That's right. And, look, very happy to help, not just clients, but happy to chat to people in the industry, connect, collaborate, exchange ideas, just like we've done. So,
yeah. Exactly. We reached out through LinkedIn, and I think it's a powerful platform. And just piggybacking on that, Abbas, what I would suggest is obviously reach out to Abbas, and if you've got a more pressing matter, make sure you email directly or something, because he definitely can add value. But if someone emails you that is genuinely curious about what you do or wants to have a coffee with you, but they're not your ideal client, do not say no. And I think that's the big thing that I hear is, I block them, I say no. But you never, most of the biggest opportunities I've ever received in life and outside and for my profession is from people that I had no idea I'd get that opportunity from, because people know 150 people in their own world, and someone will know someone that can help you.
That's right.
So never say no.
Yeah, no, I agree. And I'm very happy to meet people because we can learn off each other and add value to each other, right? So even if it's someone wanting to get in the industry or wants to know how to progress, etc., very happy to do that as well.
You're a gentleman and a scholar, Abbas. Thank you so much. We're going to bring you back for some bonus questions, my friend, in just a moment.
Thanks very much.
Thank you. Thank you for tuning in to episode 8 of Ledger Legends, where we interview a leading professional in accounting. If you're a legend of a Ledger legend or want to be on the show, please get in touch. I think we're almost about to be booked out for 2024. We're now looking at 2025. Get in touch and we'll make it happen. Thank you for tuning in. Thank you for re-listening. Feel free to like, subscribe, give it a 5-star on the podcast, and we will see you next week. Bye for now, everyone. Take care. Bringing you back, Abbas, I got some good questions. Let's start with the one I haven't really asked before. If you could have dinner with any historical figure, fictional or, factual, who would it be and why?
So it's a good question, and my answer might be a bit different to what you expect. So
okay, I like it. I like that.
Yeah, it would be my parents because they're both passed.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah, no, it's all right. So I thought about it, and who would I really value spending that time and be them? Because I don't, they're not there. So if I had the opportunity, I'd choose them over anyone else.
That would be very special. And thank you for sharing that, Abbas. That's really touching, my friend. How would you describe your role to a child?
It's interesting. Because I do have a 6-year-old.
There you go.
So we talk about it, but I guess to simplify it, I would say I help businesses make sense of the numbers in their business. So what's coming in and what are they spending, and what to do about it.
Very, very simple. Very simple. I like it. Very easy to understand. If you've had any pets or you have a pet, how would they describe you?
I don't, but then I thought about my kids, so hopefully that's so funny. Yeah, because we are obviously in a serious profession and all that, but don't take myself too seriously. Like to have a laugh, So I think, and that's important. It keeps things grounded.
Yeah, take your profession seriously. Don't take yourself seriously.
Exactly.
Good man. And last but certainly not least, if you could go back in time and give Abbas Alibhai some advice at any age, which age would you go back? How old would you be? And what would the specific advice be that you give yourself? I wonder if they believe it, if they saw you. It's like, I didn't know how successful I'd become.
Yeah, look, it's a good question again. I think I'd probably go back to the start of my career, so being young, straight out of uni, Big Four, accounting firm. And at that time, I was like, wow, what am I doing here? I'm here, do I deserve to be here, right? So I think it's a theme of what we've discussed, which would be to back yourself and aim high, don't worry about how you got there. Do the best you can, grow, but with the same themes that we've discussed with that integrity at the core. But I think, yeah, really backing yourself. I think that would be the key message.
Good man. Good man. Well, look, again, I appreciate you coming on board, Abbas. Hope all is well. And thank you for tuning in, everyone. Happy Wednesday. Take care.
Thanks very much.
Thanks, Abbas. Good man.